Okay, so we just did the question 3 sum. Now it's the next question after that called 3 sum closest. So in the previous question, you had to get the 3 numbers that sum up to 0 and all the triplets that add up to 0. In this case now, what I want to do is get the 3 numbers that are closest, that sum up the closest value to the target. So basically, target is given. It could be 1, or it could be like 10, 100, right? So it says nums.length is at least 3, and my target could be up to 10 to the 4. It could be up to 1,000 elements, 2,000 elements of the array. Oh, the values can range from negative 1,000 to 1,000. Okay, cool. So right now output is equal to I want to check against my target value. So the furthest thing away from this would be float infinity. If I go to in Python infinity float inf. So that's basically it. So right now this is the furthest away from my target value that I could be. So right now output is infinity away from my target, so that's the worst case scenario. That means anything I swap it with will be better, right? Because infinity is as far as you can go. The next thing I want to do is figure out where I need to be. So I need to create some sort of left and a right. Or I could just do it by range. Well, the last question we used range, I think, right? It doesn't auto increment, that's the only difference. So you can still use while in range. So while I range n, so that goes to n minus 1. Left equals I plus 1, right equals n minus 1. So this would be 1, and then what we want to do is return the sum of the 3 integers that are closest to the target value. Try all the combos, then try all the combos, then try all the combos. Nums I plus nums left plus nums right. Also want to sort this because it doesn't matter what the values are. We only care about what the output is. So the positions of the array don't matter. Okay, so let's sort the array first. So basically I want to go through each item. You could do this with the triple for loop like we did in the other question, but it's probably going to trigger the compile time. It's going to take too long to compile, or whatever. The runtime is going to take forever. So what I'm going to do is if, so all right is less than left, so we want to see where it crosses, then it goes to that next, then it crosses, then it goes to that next, then it crosses. So basically if if the total so let's say the target was -5. If target equals to the total, return total. Elif the targets minus of the absolute value of the target minus the absolute value of the total or if the total it's going to keep doing that. So I have to find a way to keep saving the closest value. That's where this output comes in. So if the target equals the total, just return it as is. If total equals the target, return. If total is less than the target, left plus equals 1, else right minus equals 1. So basically 1 it goes all the combinations, 2, then it goes all the other combinations, 3, then it goes all the other combinations, and if it's less, go up, and if it's greater, go down. So we have to also figure out first if that total is less than the target, output is the minimum between itself and this total. So basically what this is doing, and then let's say return output. So basically what my code is doing now as a whole is it starts with an output value. It's infinity. That means it's as far away from the target as possible, the opposite of what we want. We want the closest value to the target, right? So then I get len n. So n is len nums. So basically I have an array full of numbers, and I need to find 3 of them that when added together come closest to this target value, right? But we have to figure out, there could be a bunch of different combinations, right? So we have to figure out which 3 are the best. So what I'm going to do is get the length of it, sort it, so that way, what's it called? If I sort it, then I know everything on the right is going to be the greatest, and everything on the left is going to be the least. From least to greatest, it's going to be sorted. And that way, I could dictate whether I need to go left or right to move until I get to the target value. Because if it's greater, I know I could lower it by 1. And this, by lowering it by 1, I have a number less than what it is currently. If it's lower, if my total is lower, I can increase it by 1. Because I know whatever's to the right is going to be equal to or greater than on the right, because it's sorted. Right, so that's what I do here, left. And then I get a while loop, because I don't know how long it's going to be, but I want to keep iterating until I get to the end. So while I is less than the length of numbers minus 1, because it's an array, remember that. This is just the length of the array, but I want to go to the array position of length minus 1, which is the last element of the array. Then I get my left position and right position, so the beginning of the array, end of the array. But I notice I start from I is less than range. I is 0, because range, the default is 0 to n. That's why I omitted the 0 from this. I didn't need to write it, because it's built in, it's 0. So if this is 0, I can't have it on itself. So it needs to be the next number, I plus 1. And then n, right, is going to be n minus 1, so the last element. Right, so if we go on the whiteboard, let's just show you guys real quick on the whiteboard. It's basically like this. One, 2, 9, 40, 8, 3, 7. Right? This is I. This is going to be left, which is equal to I plus 1, and this is going to be right, which is n minus 1, because this length equals n. So since it's 0 indexed, it's 0. So this would be length is n. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 equals 6. But since it's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 indexes, it's n minus 1. That's why right is n minus 1. And then left is going to go this way, right is going to go this way, and they can't cross. So that's why I put left is less than right and not equal to, because we can never have them be the same number. Right? Then at each iteration, I get the total. So num's I. So I is 1. And let's say left is 2 and 7. So 1 plus 2 plus 7 is 10. Right? If my target value is 10, then we're done. Return the total. That means we found this is the closest value. Otherwise, we want total, so this minimum should be total minus or if the total is less, so yeah, we basically get a total every time we do it. And if the total is less, so for example, if let's say the target is 30, right? Then I could shift left to the right by 1. So now it's going to be 9 plus 1 plus 7. You see that? Because the loop is within the big loop. So it's still on 1. But 9 plus 1 plus 7 is 17. And that's greater than 10. And closer to 30. Right? So whatever this minimum actually, I could just do it in there within each thing. So output is the minimum so whatever the target value is minus whatever the target value is minus I could go target minus total, the absolute value, or I could just do it. Let's run it with the total and then correct as we go. I don't want to overthink it. If total is less than the target, because I want total to equal the target, so I want it to be as close to the target as possible. So I could put min, so up, or min is infinity right now. Yeah, so output is infinity. And I get the minimum of everything. So let's say I got 17, 19, yeah, right now the current total is infinity. That makes the most sense because it's the furthest away. Then I want to make sure all the differences are closest to the target. If it's closest to the target, so right now if total equals target, return the total. Otherwise, I have to keep checking as we go. So total is less than the target, so I could go val equals none. Because I need something to hold the differences. And I need something to hold a value. So I'll put differences in value. Or I'll put differences and output. So let's call this one diff. So then I can go output and diff. So first I want to go diff. Is total yeah, so if the difference So basically, if the absolute value of the total minus the absolute value or if total target minus total, if target minus total is less than the current output if the absolute value of target minus total is less than target minus total, if it's less than the current diff because there's only one correct answer, so the current diff, then diff equals ABS target minus total, and at the same time the output equals total. That makes sense. How much time do I have now? It's 33 minutes. Okay, cool, that's good enough. So basically what I do is I need to have two values. One is to check whether the difference is less than the difference before. So because we're going to keep checking the difference. So total value, right? If it's not the exact value of the target, it's either going to be less than or greater than. So there's going to be a bunch of these. So you have to find out which one is closest to 0, right? So that's why I started my diff at infinity, right? So only the numbers that are smaller in absolute value, because the lowest absolute value you can have is 0. You can't have negative absolute value, right? So the smallest absolute value you can have is 0, right? So that means only the values that are lower than the current difference will change the output value and will change the difference, right? So it's always going to compare current diff to target minus total. If it's not, it's just going to skip the loop, and then I continue. So if target minus total is diff, target minus absolute value of target minus total is less than the difference, now the difference becomes that, and the output equals the total. All right, and we keep going. So basically all this does is runs the whole loop. This whole loop is just there to check if there's something equal to the target. If it's equal to the target, we're done, right? But all these other conditions are just designed to get this condition to pop off and move these bounds left, right, left, right, left, right, until we get to the total that's closest. And then we return that as the output. So let's try running it. Wait, what? I is not defined. I in range n. Well, I at range n. Let's try that. Do I have to define I? Let's try that. Oh, while I is less than. Oh, because we have to shift this manually. While, and I could just make I 0. And then this while loop, I have to go to self-propel it. Let's try now. Time limit exceeded. While I is less than range n is len nums, I is 0, I plus equals 1, and then while left is greater than right, if the total is less than the target, keep moving left, otherwise move the right down 1, while left is less than right. Okay. Yeah, nums I, nums left, right. It's give me the total. And then n minus 1 is the right, I plus 1 is the left. What am I doing? Let me check my. I got a text. Okay. Something is causing it to go infinite. How much time do I have? Wait, why did I open RuneScape? Let me close RuneScape real quick. Basically, I'm at 41 minutes. Okay, let's just plug it into ChatGPT, see what's going on. Correct the code. 3 sum closest. So I'm just going to take this, put this in here, my code. Then we're just going to fix my code, because it's always something small. It's no point in spending like 3 hours looking for a typo. The purpose is to get better at logic, not syntax with these things, because syntax you'll pick up along the way, but you don't need to spend 3 hours looking for semicolon or freaking minus sign, because that's not going to improve your skill level. Sure, you could become a better debugger, but like grand picture, like if I could do 1,000 questions, right, and you can only do a third of that, but you could debug a semicolon really well, like you've used less logic to do that, right? Like it's more so that's what these tools are for, like linting, ChatGPT, all this shit, just for like spell checks, shit like that. I want to focus on the logic so I could keep improving. Very close to being correct. A couple of missing issues. Let nums. The function returns an iterable, not an integer. You should just compare I with n directly. Range n minus 2. What does that mean? So expression I minus n is incorrect. Okay. Because we don't want to go to the end. We just want to go to n minus 2. Because I is never going to go to the very end. Left and right pointer are fine. That's all good. So I guess that looks like the only correction I had to make. Let's try that. It looks like something else is causing an issue. Show me the parts I need to fix, because I just want to focus on what is holding up my logic. While I is less than thing. Oh, while I is less than n minus 2. So I is less than n minus 2. Oh, because we don't need a range, because we're not using a for loop, it's a while loop, it's not an iterable, so you could just use the value. Because range is used for I in range is if you have some sort of iterable, like an array, a string, then you could iterate upon that range, right? But this, we just have, these are just bounds. That's why I have to define this. And in the for loop, I don't have to define I, because it's already built in. Okay, so here's the only line you need to fix, while I is n minus 2. Okay, that's perfect. Okay, so pretty much my logic is sound. There we go. So see, it's like all these little things, right? Like syntactical things. If I didn't know this about the for loop and the while loop with that range thing, it would have been like 3-4 hours, right? Just wasted, right? When I could just plug it in here, change a few characters of one line, not even the whole line. It's just one portion of the line here. All the rest of this logic is correct. You see? So let's submit it. There we go. Beats 87.49% of other solutions. So all I did was, just to recap, right? I have an output, which is my final value. So first I want to compare, right? I have a target. They give me a defined value as the target and an array of numbers, random, assorted, and I want to take 3 of those that have to be distinct. So let's say I get A, B, C, right? A cannot be B, B cannot be C, A cannot be C, right? So basically what I'm saying is, if I have 1, 2, 1, right? I can't just spam -1, -1, -1, -1 on itself. I need 3 distinct numbers from this array. So 1, 2, 1 are distinct numbers because they have different indexes for each number, right? Distinct indexes that lead to the closest target value. So 3 sum closest, right? So the sum of 3 numbers that are closest to the target. So now that I know that, I'm going to create an output and a difference. Right, I'm just going to leave that up here for now. Output is going to be every time I sum up 3 numbers, I'm going to take the output and save the output closest to the value here. The other thing is, I need to make sure that the condition for saving these 3 is that the difference is as close to 0 as possible. So if we do the absolute value of target minus total, in the best case scenario, if it's equal to each other, if it's equal to each other, if the target equals the total, you get 0, right? But if we don't get 0, I want the closest thing to 0. So I want to see if my difference is less. And since it's absolute value, the lowest will at least be 0, and at most it'll be as close to 0 as possible, right? So that's why I have a difference here. And if it's lower, if it has a lower difference, so if it's closer to 0, I want to save that output. If I have a lower difference, which means my difference is closer to 0, I want to save that output of the 3 digits. If not, skip, right? So then what do I do next? Right, I want to go through that array, right? So I have to get length numbers, right? So I get n, which is length of the array, and I have an I value because I want to use a while loop, because in the for loop you have a built-in I on your iterable, but in this while loop I want to dictate myself where I go for left and right with these 2 pointers. Second thing I want to do is sum, num sort. That way, in order to get closer to the target, I have the actual target value, right? So in order to get closer to that value, I need to get as close to the sum as possible, right? So I create a while loop with left, like we started here. I is over here at the first part. I plus 1 is left because we don't want to overlap with I. And then n minus 1 is the far right. So we just keep adding until these cross, and then it breaks. Which is why left is less than right, because if it crosses, done. We're done our loop. And then it goes to the next I. I is 2. And it crosses, boom, done. I is 3, and then, which means left is 4, n minus 1, crosses, boom. Until we find all the combinations of outputs and differences which are closest to the target value as possible. So right here I get the total value. Every iteration of this loop, I get the total value. I do absolute value. So if the target minus the total, that absolute value is less than the current difference. So right now it's infinity. Let's say it's 5. 5 is less than infinity. So now my difference is now 5. And my output is whatever those 3 numbers are. So then the next time I do the loop, let's say the total leads to a difference of 3. 3 is less than 5. So now my new difference is going to be that, and then my total is going to be the numbers that added up to 3 at the end, this absolute value. So that produced this difference of 3. So every iteration, I get closer and closer and closer to that target value, right? If it's equal to the target value, I put a condition in there to say if this total is equal to, return the total right away, because there's only one correct answer. If not, keep doing all the combinations, and basically if the total is less, increment, decrement, until you find the closest value to the target, right? And then you return that output. So basically there's two ways. You either get the actual value and return it, or you get the closest thing to that value and you return it. So as you can see, it passes the test cases, passes the submission, and beats 87.49% of other solutions. So if you like that question, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, comment below. Knologist out.